In a project environment, and especially a research environment, we're in a position where we're limited by not one, but two constraints. We're limited by cost, in terms of the amount of money or number of hours we can commit to a bit of work, and time, because we're working to deadlines. In fact, this is the nature of research funding. You're given a set amount of money for a set period of time. So in this environment, there's only one thing that has any flexibility, and that becomes a scope. Now, at the beginning of any bit of work, we've got lots and lots of different ideas of all the different things we like to do. Some of these ideas are very clear and well defined. Some require a wee bit more development. And there's maybe some that we just don't know at the moment, but will appear throughout the duration of the project. If we had, let's say for example, 20 different ideas at the beginning of a bit of work, and we tried to prioritise them, we'd find that very difficult. Putting 20 things in order numerically would take us a very long time. And then if I asked my colleague to do it, or asked my supervisor to do it, we'd end up with different lists. And then we'd end up arguing that something I think should be number 3, they think should be number 4, and something I think should be 17, they think should be 12, and so on. So what I do in this situation is, rather than prioritise initially, I would categorise. And this is something we often do post-award. Once a project proposal has been approved, or we've got the money from the funder, we start to figure out, okay, what are the most important things that we're doing here? And we categorise initially in 3 dimensions. We talk about must-haves. Now, a must-have is something we must deliver on the project, or the project will not work, or it will not be legal, or it will not be ethical, or I'll never get repeat funding, or I won't get a doctoral degree. This is normally quite a small subset, and they're quite easy to define, because you ask the question, if it's not there, do I still have a project? And if the answer is no, then it's a must-have. The next level down, we call them nice-to-haves. And these are things that would deliver real value to a project, but they're not absolutely essential for its successful completion. What you'll probably find is that many of your reasons for engagement and involvement in a project will fall into this category. Also, some of the primary reasons for engagement of some of your key stakeholders, your supervisors for instance, will fall into this category too. Things that would be very valuable, but they're not absolutely essential for you to successfully complete your work. The third and final category we call bells and whistles. These are little add-ons, things that make it fancier or shinier. Aesthetics, probably personal interest more than anything else. Certainly not all that valuable, so not nice to haves, and definitely not must-haves, as they're not essential. If you try categorising all of your different ideas, all of your different bits of work to do, using these 3 categories, you'll find it much easier. And you'll reach consensus with other people much quicker than you ever would do trying to numerically prioritise. The argument you will have is whether or not something is a nice to have or a bells and whistle. Because in all honesty, the must-haves will take care of themselves. If they're not there, you don't have a project. Simple as that. What you'll find is, you have too much stuff to do, so you need to start to compromise. And what we do to begin with is we compromise on the bells and whistles. If I have time remaining at the end, then maybe I'll get around to looking at these things. But right now, I'm going to focus on the more important things. You'll probably find you've still got too much stuff to do. And this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky, because you need to begin to compromise on your nice-to-haves. If you end up compromising on your must-haves, you don't have a project. That's the nature of a must-have. It must be there, or I don't have a project. For some projects, it's quite easy to do this. But for something like a research project or a PhD, it really is very tough to do for an entire project. So what I would suggest is that you look at the work you've got on over the next, 6 months, say, or maybe even 3 months, and start to think in terms of that work. What are my must-haves? What are my nice-to-haves? What are my bells and whistles? Because it's much better to do a small amount 100% than it is to get everything done, but only at 80%. Because completing everything at 80% is not going to get you a successfully regarded project.